it's interesting, yeah, that everybody has their own ideas concerning, the Earth and its development, and some of them are pretty far fetched. Yeah, I mean, there's one where oh shoot, I watched this video about 2 months ago and I forgot the name of the planet already. It's interesting how these conspiracy people come up with names for planets and and such. Yeah, that there's supposed to be some planet that rotates around the sun um, every 3,000 or 38,000 years or something like that, and this it comes really close to the Earth, and allegedly the last time it came close, this is not Lakota Star knowledge. What I'm saying, okay, this is a conspiracy theory that this big uh, chunk of this planet that's bigger than the Earth um, is supposed to come around every 30,000 years or so, and it came around and it collided on the tip end of the Earth, and so what happened was the Earth, um, this the biggest chunk of the Earth that fell off from this collision. This is supposed to be what evolves into the moon, our moon, yeah, and that after all these years, the Earth slowly, circular. How would I say that? Makes itself back into a circle again. Circularizes itself. Dave English here, yeah. I'm making a new word. Shit, I better not say that. Maybe it's already existing. I'm gonna double check, yeah, to make something into a circle. Does that word exist? Circularize. Let's see. Circul, circular, Arize. Does that exist? Evidently it does. Okay, it's not a Dave English. It really is English. Circularized. All right, let's see if it does exist. Yes, it does exist. Make make into a circular loop. Okay. Yeah. 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 Oh, to circulate. That's come that circularize, circulate. Okay, they're going in that direction. Okay. All right. Shoot, I thought I invented a new word. Boy, I saw dollar signs there for a while. Take my idea to Webster's dictionary here. Shoot. Well, I bet I was the first Indian to come up with that word. Shoot. Anywho, um, so after quite a few years, the Earth circularizes itself again to what it is now, and they also say that during that time, see, it was a slow process. It's not like car driving by. It just is a slow process. But these conspiracy theorists, they theorize that at that collision, some people from this other planet, let's call it Planet X, okay? Because I forgot the name they called it. So at this collision, they theorize that some super, super highly advanced humans from this super, super highly developed civilization that live on this planet X hopped aboard a spaceship and came to the Earth and saw the Earth in its primordial state and primeval state and said that this there's something on this Earth that we need. Allegedly their planet was dying and they needed some kind of element that is existing on the Earth. And so they felt, we can get this from here, but You know, they don't have that much time, and you know, and so they think, okay, you know, we need some workers to dig this up. So, see, I already have a red flag, and I bet you, for those of you that know me, you know what that red flag is. Okay, so they say, they look for, you know, see, everybody's highly advanced on this planet X, so they don't want to do the digging work. All right, so they look around the Earth and they see these cavemen walking around. So they capture these cavemen, and then they start doing genetic experiments, and and they make mistakes, yeah, and this is you know, and this is supposed to be where these mythological animals from Greek mythology come from. You know, the Taurus, you know, with the head of a bull and the body of a man, and you know, the Sphinx, and all these things are supposed to be coming from these experiments that these guys were doing from Planet X. And finally they got it right. Yeah, finally they got it right. They decided to make a creation from these cavemen that would look just like them, but they programmed them genetically so that they would only be they would only have access to 10% of their brain. That means the other 90% is locked out. They can't have them becoming like the humans on Planet X who use 100% of their brain, because if the Earth humans ever have access to that 100%, they could overrun the Planet X humans. So they want to keep them as slaves. So they have them develop so genetically they will always only be able to use 10% of their brain, and this is what keeps them in, you know, how they keep. This is how the Planet X humans enslave the Earth humans. So the Planet X humans create the Earth humans by taking some of their DNA and mixing it with the caveman DNA, and produce what we look like today. And they say the evidence is because humans do not have a perfect walk like the cavemen did. Yeah, this shows that the development was too fast for the walk to become good for our bodies. So this is what they're saying. Yeah, and so it was through these new humans that these things like the pyramids were built, up there in England. That place that's getting a new facelift, and they're tearing out one of the highways that goes beside it. The Stonehenge, that's becoming a better place now. Yeah, and these you know, all these pyramids all over the world. They're saying that these humans did this with the assistance of these superhumans from Planet X. Yeah, and as tributes to the Planet X humans. So the Planet X humans wanted the Earth humans to see them as gods, and that's where Greek and Roman mythology comes into place here. Yeah, that's a conspiracy theory, and I think it's full of shit. Yeah, because it's just like with these alien abductions. If these humans are superhumans with super advanced technologies, then why don't they have the technology to have drilled for this so-called element, and not need um, you know, these slave help? Do you see what I mean? The technologies are inconsistent. That's why I think the story is full of shit. It's just not feasible, yeah. Because I think if a collision happened like this, one of these planets is going to be totally destroyed. Yeah, and I don't think this is possible. It just is not possible. So that's my take on it. Now, I'm going to go into the Lakota Star Knowledge version of this, okay? Lakota star knowledge. Well, first of all, I should say what my red flag was. And I think I already said it, and I'll repeat it. Yeah, that if these super aliens had this kind of technology to, do this amazing genetic engineering, well, how come they didn't have the technology to just dig up this whatever element that was that they needed from the earth? Because I forgot what it was. Yeah, why didn't they just come and do laser surgery or something? You know what I mean? And then take what they needed and then left. That way why would they need slave labor? If you have that kind of advanced technology, why would you need slave labor? Do you see what I mean? So it doesn't make sense. It's inconsistent. So that's the first red flag, and there's others, but I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. But the fact is, to me, this argument does not hold water. It holds shit. Anyway, in Lakota Star Knowledge, it says that the Earth was, it tells about how the Earth was created. That in the beginning there was Eon. Eon consisted of 4 elements. Eon is not God. Eon has no gender. Eon just is. But what is containing Eon? See, this is the thing that a lot of people don't realize, that the container is just as important as what it's containing. And how can you drink a cup of coffee if you don't have a cup? Even when you reach into a mountain stream to drink water, you're lowering yourself to the stream, yeah, so that you can just literally drink out of it. But what's holding the stream? The earth is. Something is always holding something. And if you decide to use your hand and dip into the water, and you still have your hand in the form of a cup, something is still holding something. Do you see what I mean? There's always a container. And this is what people forget. This is what people, when they're trying to come up with a religion or whatever, they forget that, that something has to contain something for it to move, for it to have motion. Yeah? So what's containing Eon? See, people don't realize that space is not just space. Space is something. Yeah? And there's not just one something that's holding space. There's something else that's involved too that we just don't see. And today's quantum physicists are slowly, they're getting ideas on this, like coming up with concepts like dark matter and string theory and all this kind of thing. I'm not going to explain that, but it is getting close to what Lakota Star Knowledge believes in. I'm not trying to say Lakota Star Knowledge is above quantum physics. Even though it is, I'm not saying it. Because I have nothing to prove. Yeah? I don't feel a tendency to prove a damn thing. I'm just giving you information from these star knowledge stories. And one of the things that it says is that the container for Eon has a name. Yeah? And that when Eon is doing something, see, this container has to adapt. And Eon gathers itself together, and from this process is creation of this universe. And all universes are created in the same way. Okay? So it starts from within. So from this within comes the universe. I'm really making this story short because normally it's a long story. Okay, so I'm going to just go through the important parts. I shouldn't say everything is important, but I'm going to through some main topics. Okay, some main parts. I'm just going to jump to some main parts. So from this gathering of Eon comes the creation of the universe, which is still happening. It's not done. And all universes are created this way. This is not the only universe. Okay? There were universes before us, and there will be universes after us, and we are not the only universe. Okay, I don't know what makes people think there's just one. And usually that scientific method which says, basically if I can't prove it, then it doesn't exist. Or if I can't prove it, then it's not real. This is duality because it's telling you what to believe. It's telling you what to think. It's just the same concept that religion uses. Yeah, it's an appeal to authority complex. It's an inferiority complex. It's duality, as I said at the beginning. So, from this process, the Earth develops, and it's not just this Earth. There's a bunch of Earths out there. Yeah, our grandmother Earth has many sisters, but we're on this one, so I'm going to focus on this one. Yeah, and what happened on our Earth is probably similar to what happened to her sisters. Yeah, and so anyway. When humans are created, we're created from the elements, the human body. And a bunch of them are created, yeah, at the same time. We're not Adam and Eve. I mean, for there just to be one couple, and the children coming from that couple then have to mate with each other, I mean, we're talking about incest. Brothers have to fuck sisters to have kids, and then these kids have to fuck each other to have other kids. It just ends up with nothing but incest. And for those of you that know genetics, the more incest occurs like this, the more defective we become. So that argument does not hold water. It holds shit. Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. So, in our story, it says that lots of them were created at the same time. And I don't just mean 10. I mean trillions were created at the same time. Yeah? And when we come on the surface of the Earth, there's only one continent. And there are, 5 groups of humans that appear around the same time. And see, they come from under the Earth. So when they come on the Earth, when they see each other, they meet each other, sometimes it's nice, sometimes it's not, because everybody has different personalities. So it just depends on how people are. So as we continue to evolve, I mean, we're not cavemen when we come out, okay? We're called Ikche Oyate. It's a human nation. And the focus is not on the outside because the teachings are focusing that, the teachings that we receive concern us to focus on the inside because the universe was created this way. So is our reality. So we must begin on the inside. And that's what I said at the beginning of the show, yeah? Establishing, maintaining, and communicating from your sacred center. This is how we started. But in time, we settle on different parts of the Earth. And depending on our location in relation to the sun, our bodies start to develop. They start to adapt to the ecosystem that we're living in. Therefore, skin color starts to come into picture. Hair texture comes into the picture because our bodies are adapting to that environment. Now, once that happens and we run into other people, we start focusing on the outer appearance. This is where we're bringing duality in now. So what this is saying is that we were not created as Lakota. We were not created as Washuchu, white people, or whatever. Yeah, we were not created like that. We were created according to, What the focus was, what was on the inside. So when we first come on the earth, we probably have very similar appearances to the other groups. Yeah. So it's like I said, it's through millions of years of adapting to the environment that we live in is when our skin colors start to come into place. And as we focus on that, then we lose our sacred centers, and we start oppressing one another. And next thing you know, we have brought duality into the picture, which is part of the natural process. So the challenge here is to see duality as part of our learning experience, but that we should try to maintain focusing on our spiritual and sacred centers. That's the challenge. And today we're losing incredibly. You just have to turn on the news. Every war, every difficulty, every protest is based on some kind of oppression. And that's all coming from duality. We're focusing only on the outside. We're just very few of us are communicating from the inside. Yeah, this happened before. Our Star Knowledge story says this happened before. And it got to the point where the duality was, we let it overwhelm us that the earth had to cleanse herself. Yeah? Before she did that, she called everybody to safety. But only the few who were living the sacred center way heard her voice. Because see, when you communicate from your sacred center, you have a direct communication to the earth, because this is a part of her is located in that sacred center. You get that when you're born. You get that when you're conceived. Okay? So when you communicate outside of that sacred center from the color of your skin, or your culture, or your religion, or whatever, anything away from your sacred center, if your focus is outside of your sacred center, you lose contact with the earth. So when she calls you to safety, you don't hear the voice. Yeah? So only a few were saved. That's who we're descended from. Now it's happening again. Yeah? And the earth is starting to communicate. She's telling everybody, be prepared. Now when the important message is going to come, are you going to be able to hear it? Yeah? It depends on how you live. Are you communicating as a Mormon? Are you communicating as a Buddhist, or as a Democrat, or as an atheist? Or are you communicating from your sacred center, which has no religion? Atheism is a religion. That's a funny oxymoron. Yeah? It's a funny contradiction. Atheism is a belief system, and if it has a belief system, it's a religion. Yeah? Atheism is a religion. So communicating as an atheist is also going to, because atheists are focused on proving others wrong. That still is not communicating from the sacred center. When you communicate from the sacred center, you don't care about those kind of things. Those things don't bother you. But for atheists, it does bother them. That religion bothers them. So they focus on science. And science is kind of a religion too. So these people are not going to hear the voice. They might detect these movements, but they're not going to be able to detect the when and where. Yeah? So when you follow these star knowledge ways that focus on your sacred center, you will hear the where and when. And, the where, meaning where to go for safety so that you can survive the cleansing. The earth wants you to survive. So she sends the message to everybody, but only those who communicate from their sacred centers are going to hear that message of where to go for safety. Yeah? So that's what Lakota Star Knowledge says. And so it talks about, before the previous cleansing, that there was a superior technology that was developed that allowed people to travel great distances through the earth and through the air. That through the earth part really interests me. Yeah? How did they do that? Yeah? What did they have that allowed them to do that? And some people today will say, well, where's the evidence of it? Well, the earth cleansing is like this. The earth cleansing is basically, something coming from the center to come on the earth to basically wipe it clean. And so anything that's on the surface that, is movable is going to be brought to the center. And what's in the center of the earth? Can anything in the center of the earth really maintain its structure? It's going to disintegrate. The evidence is in the stories. So I trust in that. Yeah, because I've been led to by things that most people just don't understand because they're dualistic. But I understand it, I've seen it, I've heard it, so I know it to be true. That's why I have this show. Yeah? It's about healthy living. So you can hear that when should that time come in your life. Hopefully it won't. But you never know. Things are moving faster than expected. That's because of the duality of man and woman. Yeah? So, what the Star Knowledge stories are saying is that we are quite capable of superior technology. We don't need aliens to come here and touch us in the belly button and say, okay, you're enlightened now. Every place else, it's just like, all our modern archaeologists, even the goofy ones, they all say that, these people, they couldn't have. They're Indians. How in the hell, could they have that kind of technology? They're Indians. Yeah, they're not born with that kind of capacity. And that's racist. That's institutionalized racism. Of course, we have that capacity. Everybody does. Yeah? So, our Star Knowledge stories say that, everything happened here. There was no alien intervention. There was no alien abduction. Things are explainable. You just have to step out of the limitations that you were brainwashed with through science and religion. Yeah? And who in the hell said we only have... How can you prove we only have capacity, we only have access to 10% of our brain? I don't believe that. Yeah? I honestly don't believe that. I think it's actually much higher. And I think there's access that we have that we're just not aware of because it's on the subconscious. So I don't agree with these scientific statements, and I just, to me, it's telling you what to believe in. See, that was my other red flag concerning that conspiracy theorist story, saying that these super aliens had 100% access to the brains, and they made it so the Earth humans would always only have 10%. And to me, that just doesn't hold water. Yeah? The mind is incredibly powerful. So I think we have more access than we think we do. And I for sure as hell think it's not just 10%. What's most important, what Lakota Star Knowledge says, what is most important is your will. What do you want to do? How do you want to live your life? This is what's important. When you live in the Star Knowledge way, these concepts of health that I spoke about at the beginning of the show, then you see more of reality. In duality, you're limited. Your vision of reality is limited. You're not able to comprehend the fullness of it. So yes, you are going to just have a very small percentage, of access to your brain. But when you're living the Star Knowledge concepts, there is no limit. And who in the hell decides what that 100% is to begin with? How do you know what is 100%? I don't think anybody really knows that. And I don't even think that is important. What is important is your will. How do you want to live your life? What do you want to do? This is what decides it, because reality begins within. Don't pay attention to this scientific bullshit that tells you you only have 10% access to your brain. Don't pay attention to that. That's not true. How do they know what 100% is? They don't. So if they don't know what 100% is, they sure as hell don't know what 10% is. Their argument is totally, totally bullshit. That doesn't matter. The way you live your life decides how much of reality you're going to see. Here's a good test you can do on yourself. Think of something that happened in which you learned something in the past. Go back there. Yeah? Lay down someplace, meditate, and go back there in your mind. Whether you need music to take you there or just think about it. Go back and think of it thoroughly. As thoroughly as you can. You don't need to hypnotize yourself for this. Just think of it as thoroughly as you can and go through it real slow. And the chance is really high you're going to experience something that you didn't the first time you're going to experience something that you didn't feel or see when it did happen. That's because you've changed. You've grown. Now you're able to see more of that experience. See, when it happened, when that past experience happened, you were not as developed as you are now. See, the more you develop, the more you see. Yeah? How much you want to see depends on you. Living your life in a healthy way, you will see more. Yeah? That's the law. It's not about putting limitation. It's about how much do you want to see? What do you want to see? Depends on how you live your life. Yeah? And the same thing is true for our relatives out there on the other grandmother Earths. The same thing is true for them. Because reality begins within. It's a universal rule. Some of them have been out there longer than us. Some of them are just now starting. But our stories are the same. They're very similar. It's just like on this earth, yeah? No matter where you go, number one, our babies all speak the same language. The same kind of things make us laugh. The same kind of things make us cry. The same kind of things scare us. The same kind of things make us angry. We have a lot in common. We all need earth, wind, and fire to live. All of this is what makes us Ikjetwayate. As long as we focus on our sacred centers, we can run into each other, meet each other, get to know one another, and develop real good friendships. But when we say, oh shit, here comes a Navajo, we've already lost an opportunity. Oh man, here come them Germans. Already we lost the opportunity. It doesn't matter how they think. As long as you think from your sacred center, they will be influenced by that. And that might cause them to communicate from their sacred centers, and you influence that. In other words, take the chance to be the first one to be responsible, to influence others to be responsible too. We are blessings, and this is how we can do it. Because when we don't do it, look at what happens. Just turn on the news. That's what happens when we don't. Yeah. No alien race is going to come here to save us. They have their problems too. There's healthiness and unhealthiness throughout the universe. There is no perfection. Perfection is an illusion. Perfection is an idea of duality to oppress others. It's not important. What's important is how you live your life. You have the ability to change your life into something that you would like. You have that power. It all begins with the way you think. Because from thought comes matter, reality, energy turns into matter. It all begins with thought. Just like the universe was created. That's how you can do it too. Based on everything I said, you can understand that in Lakota, the focus is on the present moment, staying in the here and now, and then, you're going to see that reality always comes around. Yeah, we come around again. We come around again, and we're always being born. Yeah, and so there's no word for goodbye in Lakota language. So instead we say "Tok Sha'a Ke," which means until next time.